Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 222 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to plan to make gemstones. Enjoy! Okay, now that we have our puffers done, and we are supplying some crystals, we need to look at what else we might need. Now, we do have enough for module 4s, because we can make the productivity logic boards. However, our technology will let us go to level 5, but we're going to need to have some gemstones. And we could, go through the effort of making module 4s just to get those modules as quickly as possible, but I kind of want them all to feed into each other to be as compact as possible. So I would like the assembly machines to go from building level 3, level 4, level 5, all basically direct inserted if possible, or as close to it as possible. Rather than going straight into the modules, I'd like to get these gemstones completed first, so we'll have everything we need to do to take it to level 5. And I was trying to do some research. It looks like the agricultural modules are still a little busted because of the biome planner, so we'll have to fix that. But let's follow the chain here for making the gemstones. Basically, to go all the way back to the beginning here, and you see polishing is one of the last things we still have up here. But it unlocks polishing compound, which is just alumina and base oil, and alumina is aluminum component, so it's kind of weird, but we can shift that down to wherever it needs to go to make the compound. And then a polishing wheel, which is interesting that it's a wood component. It's been a while since we've used wood for something, but there it is. So we grab those. And then also, we'll need to do gem crystallization, where you use those crystal catalyst and crystal seedling, and seedling is just the liquids that go into crystal catalyst, so it's nothing new. And that'll allow you to make any of the ores. It's kind of weird, you think that like diamond might be rarer than, say, ruby, but it's not. They're all the same crafting requirements, different resources of the same type, basically. And those are made in a crystallizer. So you grab that, and we can take it to gem crystallization 2. Which will allow us to process the ores into the raw versions, which just happens in an assembly machine, so that's pretty straightforward, and the time amount is the same. And then gem processing, which we're now finally using those grinding wheels, where we take the raw ones and then we cut them to their cut versions. And unfortunately, you don't get the grinding wheel back like in the other crystal types. So that's going to be fairly high resource requirement there, but we grab those, and we're finally at the point where we can use those gemstones for something. That those previous 2 tiers we couldn't do anything with them, but now with the cut ones we can. Where if we wanted to, we can go into alien microprocessing, where say we take the cut ruby, add copper paste and the petri dish, and we will get a pre-artifact, and then we can turn those pre-artifacts into the small ones. And if you've noticed with our setup that's right here, we can take the small ones and turn them into big ones, and then those big ones can go into stuff. So that's kind of a long process there, but that is a way to generate alien bits without having to actually shoot any biters. It's not relevant right now, but it is a dead-end research, so that'll get one thing off the menu here, which is always nice. But you see, you just take the individual things where copper paste is just paste with copper dust in it, and you can make the red ones. Gold paste and cut diamond, so we don't have gold yet, but if we wanted to make the yellow ones, that's how we do it. Orange, blue, purple, green. You can also make the normal ones too from iron. So that could potentially be useful, but I'd like to research anything that's at the end of a research tree, so it just makes the available research shorter. I feel like it's easier to figure out what you need to research next when the amount of things you can research is relatively limited, rather than having a giant menu you have to go through. So I like to get rid of branches of the tree when possible. So you grab that and then come back, and we can take it a step further to gem processing 2, which we take the cut versions, add the polishing wheel, add the polishing compound, and we get the polished versions. Same amount of time for all of them again. And then it starts unlocking all kinds of stuff that's related to gemstones. So let's let the research complete. It probably won't take very long, and then we can check out all of the things that gemstones go into. Meanwhile, we can try to plan for it. Where we were planning on making 1 module a second here. And that requires 1 ruby a second. So we check speed module 5. Gets a polished ruby. Efficiency 5 gets a ruby. Productivity 5 gets a ruby. You can see a trend here where ruby goes into pollution producing. And interestingly, the agricultural ones do not get rubies, but that's because they combine other modules. And that research is happening fast. So I guess we should just go to polished ruby here and check that they do go into all 5, plus some other stuff. So presumably, if our factory is set up to produce all of these at the same time, well, not the... it technically can't produce all of them at 1 per second. It kind of depends on exactly where the resources go, but we probably want more than 1 ruby a second. We'll just have to see what the numbers look like. And we might want to check all of these other ones to see what they go into. So sapphires go into Mark II stuff. We don't necessarily need it now, but it's probably worth just doing. And then emeralds, you see that they're going up the chain where they go into Mark III things and the better modules. Amethysts go into the Mark IVs. Topazes go into Mark Vs and Module 7s. And then, of course, diamonds, being the best, go into Mark 6 and level 8s. But they all take the same amount of time to produce, so there's really no reason not to. It's just a question of resources, but they all have the same inputs, so we probably want to produce all gemstones that we need and just have them ready for whenever we're going to need them. But our research is done already, so we can come back here and look at all the stuff that goes into it. Well, we're definitely going to want to do all the Module 5s here, so we'll just grab them. And it also unlocks some laser stuff. Like the Mark II laser turret that requires those sapphires. We don't use them yet, but we might as well. And we can start upgrading our laser ammo, where the original ammo and rifle holds 50 and does quite a bit of damage, a little more than 150. The next one holds 50, but you see it does way more damage, 210. So you start upgrading these laser batteries and suddenly the laser rifle gets pretty insane. So we'll grab that and our queue's full again. We'll see how long this takes. Actually, with the modules, it might take a reasonable amount of time here. Well, we'll let it go, because we need to plan here for these gemstones. Well, since the requirements are the same for all of these, let's just kind of assume we're going to make the same setup 6 times. Guess it all depends on exactly what the size is. So, how many would we want? Well, we have the output necessary for essentially 3 different modules, because we're making speed modules here, which are taking up the blue ones, but if we made red ones and we made green ones, we'd be using up all of the available crystals and 3 per second. So if we wanted to keep everything balanced, that's what we'd be looking at. So let's just see what the numbers are. Okay, that's a reasonable sized machine, but of course we can speed it up, which is always nice. Then we'll take the cut ruby, speed it up. Looks like that doesn't help. So 2 efficiencies, and then the raw ones. Looks like the machines get faster and faster the lower down you are. And the ruby ore comes from the crystallizer. And then we kind of have our input here. 3 catalysts and then 150 seedling, which seems like a lot. I guess it depends on how fast our factory can make it. Okay, right now it's being made in these units down here, making the crystal seedlings. We do kind of have a limit here on output. Let's see, 840 is not nothing. And can it input that? Not really. So they're significantly faster than this part, but this part can do about 660 or so. So, of course, some of that has to go to catalysts as well, so I suppose to find out exactly what we need, we should make these catalysts here. So it requires about 187.5. That's not terrible. Technically, we couldn't run all of these at the same time off of just this setup, but it also wouldn't be the case. We'd really only be making rubies right now. So I'm kind of fine with taking this and copy it a bunch of times, especially because, see, we wouldn't need this at all, that it's really not that big. It's just we'd make 6 of them and have to put them somewhere. And it would be based on stone processing, but it doesn't have to go right here, especially because of how much it's bumping up against this stuff. So we might actually want to run some pipes or something and toss it over here or somewhere. And we have to think about logistics as well. The amount is so low, 3 per second, that we could totally do it with drones, so it really doesn't even matter where it goes. We could always put some landfill down, maybe put it here or something. It would be nice if this had room to expand down. Like, what happens if we were building this and there wasn't enough room to go up? Well, then the only other direction we can go is down. So we probably should actually leave that open, but there's certainly tons of space here. It's kind of a long distance to move the liquids, but at this point we don't really have an option with how big it's getting. Well, we'd have 6 of these. Let's see what the resources look like for these other components. Because even though we'd have 6 of them, there's like no situation where we'd be running all 6 of them at the same time, anywhere close to now. It might be excessive to build up the supply end of it with the polishing components to be that big, even though it's technically balanced. So let's check out all these things here, where we need to make the polishing wheels, which do take productivities, which is great. The grinding wheels, also productivities. And the compound, which great productivity again. And then that alumina just comes from up above, and I'm pretty sure that's a super easy number to create, 1.25. Let's double check it. Well, they're being made here, but it's direct insertion, which makes it a little more difficult, but still. We're making 108, so we can just pull off of one of those machines to provide the alumina necessary. So, these machines aren't very big. I guess it all depends on exactly what we would be using those materials for, but I say if we put these on the end of the setup, then it could be expanded potentially. Because if we multiplied all of these times 6, the setup would then become a little bit bigger. But we have an idea of what to build now. We just need to do this, and then times 6. So we have our crystallizers, starting with ruby. And I guess we'll go up. See, we can put this here. Because we want to kind of keep it narrow, because if there's 6 of them, it'll be more square-like when everything's said and done. See, I wonder if it would be better the other way around, like this. And numbers are small, so just 1 inserter. And then they only go into 1 machine, which is cutting them with the grinding wheel. And it needs some water, which would come from somewhere. Where doesn't really matter. We'll just put a little pipeline there to remind us that it needs to be connected at some point. And then it gets ejected out. Let's put this on the side here. Get rid of some of the flashing there. And these ones will do the cutting. Also needs water. I guess though this one needs to be the first one, the raw one, which doesn't require the water. It's these guys that do. So we'll hook that up. Again, have that pipe to remind us. And let's fill up the belt here. Then we pull off one to go into each side. Let's do it on the bottom one. And then another belt. With the outputs, long-handed regular, long-handed near, and 2 types up there to fill up the belt. It also needs to have the belt come in with the grinding wheels. Probably going to have like 2 belts each, so one would like come up here and go down. Although we should make it distance changing. And it depends exactly where it comes from, but it would probably be something like this. And there'd be a second one in here. And then we need a line of 10 of them with their 3 inputs. And probably just want to have the inputs on the inside, the outputs on the other side. We need a little bit more than 10, but let's just go with 10 so the numbers are even. And actually, we probably can really mash these in here by just doing that. So that makes the polished versions. Let's pick this up again and find a better place to put it. Kind of want to try to put it in the middle if possible. Where the grinding wheels go down there, and then the polishing wheels and compound are on the other one, which can be split kind of like that. So then we have our outputs, which combine and go up again. And I think that'll do it. We just need to be times 6. And it should tile pretty nicely here. Then we have these other machines to do, but they're relatively small. But I guess we would need to prepare the steel here by chopping it up from coils. Not a problem. All those numbers are pretty small, and I think we could build those in place. Probably should just grab a few chemical plants to make sure we're good. And I think that's everything we need. How are we doing with research? Yeah, we're working our way around here. Let's take a look at stuff. So the red ammo is pretty good. That 100 plus 110. So we go to sapphire. And the upgrade is much less significant. 110 to 121. But luckily we don't have to use the previous battery in this new one. We just use the better gemstones. So it's actually a pretty no-brainer for a pick here. So we'll grab that. Come back down and see what other stuff we've got. Personal laser defense 2. Sure. And the same thing for our vehicles. Also sure. And we'll let that keep researching for a while. Okay, let's teleport down there and start getting this built. Another thing we should probably set up is the prospectors if they're not done yet. If they have completed. It looks like they still haven't. That one's still going. Well, it looks like that one did complete, but the rest of these are going, so I guess we'll just let them keep working for a while. Okay, we would put the setup somewhere around here. I don't like how this train station continues to be weird. But it has worked up until this point. So I don't really see the need to change it. Although I do think we have some resin in the storage warehouse that probably needs somewhere to go. Let's just take this one out. Put a storage chest in its place. And say we're looking for the resin to shoot in there. Seems like it's not working very fast. Is that just a input shortage? Yeah, because this is all made from tree components or mineralized water specifically. So it's going to be a little slow until we're mining resources again in significant amounts, but it's going. But yeah, I don't want to crowd this too much. But on the other hand, what's going to happen with it? Actually, one thing we can do is take this area. I'm not sure what would end up being here. Certainly we have nothing there now. Okay. Well, let's see the robots get to work. It looks like they can only access some of the trees. That's been a very dense forest square that's been here for quite some time. Probably should have checked to see exactly how big this setup would have been, because I don't know if it will fit here. Probably not, actually. Well, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably. I don't know, it's a little compact to be putting it in there, but then again, maybe it should be. I mean, if we have a specific area where it just barely fits, then it kind of makes sense to put it in that space. Alright, we'll let that continue and see what we can do here. Don't want to mash it in right on stuff, but also we want to leave ourselves some space. So let's try with it right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Well, that seems to fit fairly well. Making some progress here, so we'll keep going. We can do Mark II laser defense as well. I think that covers most of what we have access to there. We can also take this opportunity to check for any other leftover research. We do need to take care of those agricultural modules, but we'll worry about that later. We can do paper here. I don't think I really bothered, because at the time, sodium hydroxide was a pretty rare resource. And we just don't need that much paper, but if you did, you would add the sodium hydroxide and then get sodium hypochlorite as a byproduct that you'd have to process. And then you could make the pulp more efficient by making pulping liquor, which is sulfur dioxide and oxygen and water, which would create brown liquor as a result. And then that, if you added more sodium hydroxide, you could turn it into sodium sulfate and nitric wastewater. So it's kind of a chain as far as resources are concerned, but that is a more efficient way of making paper, where the first recipe, 2 pulp go in, 4 paper come out. This one, 2 pulp go in and 5 paper come out. So it's a little more efficient as far as trees are concerned, but we'll grab that just to get it off our menu, and that also unlocks paper 3, which increases the efficiency to 6 paper, and adds some more stuff, and we would get sodium carbonate as a result, which can be processed. But certainly if we did more paper setups, we would want to do it this way, but there's no point in upgrading our current setup. But then we would make white liquor with sodium sulfate and sodium hydroxide, so you see those resources from the previous processing chain could be fed in here. So it's, you can make them all work together if you wanted to. And then that would create black liquor, which we can convert into green liquor if we needed to. And then white liquor could be made from green liquor as well. So it's a chain, but something we can do. But I like to just research it because there's been some things in the beginning of our tree that's been here forever. So since we're kind of getting ready to be kind of finished with everything we need before tier 3 ore sorting, we might as well just go through and make sure that, you know, there's no loose ends. I try not to research too much stuff at a time, but at this point, we kind of know what we need to do next, so none of this stuff is distracting us in a way. We can get rid of some of the extra pipes on the end here. and get all these converted. So I guess we'll start with the ruby, although it would be more matching with the way it's sorted in the menu if we did the ruby on the left here. So we will switch this one to sapphire and go down from here. It's kind of hard to see what they are configured as with the bot warning in the way, but we'll manage. Okay, it is nighttime, so it's a good opportunity to find some places for some lights. With this level of night vision, we can still kind of see where we could use them. It was a little harder with the tier 1. Okay, that's all in there. We need to get the water, and exactly how much water are we talking about here? Very little. It seems like 1 pump jack. I don't want to run a pipe from all the way over here, so a pump jack will work fine. Let's see. Probably need to move these around. Let's power it up. Yep, should fill everything up. And this is the end of the belts. Hook them all up. 32,000 carbon. Is that correct? Shouldn't it be 48,000? Or is this train not upgraded yet? Looks like that's one of the trains that hasn't been. It would probably actually help, since carbon seems to be a limiting factor here. We'll have to try to remember that later. Let's see, we can toss more research in here. Those express filter inserters are still waiting on the cobalt because it's in a weird spot. Let's go through bioplastics. Basically, this is a way of making plastics from farming, where you can get acetic acid from processing foods, or you can make it from methanol, and then that would go into acetic anhydride, and adding that with more acidic and sulfuric acid gets you the cellulose acetate mixture, which then gives you the cellulose acetate, and with acetone gas finally gets you your liquid plastic. So that's kind of a long chain you can do if you want to make plastic from farms, basically. And then it unlocks bioplastics too as well, which is a different way of doing it. So sure. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we're going to finish our gemstone build and see how it works. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.